Wow.
What was that?
I don't know.
Back in the 90s, sitcoms had complete ownership of the television, and there is just no denying that. Don't believe us? We'll take a look at David Crane and Marta Kaufman's Friends, and you will get the drift. Well, while there are many shows that have somehow managed to retain their charm to this very day, there are several overlooked series that, believe us when we say, are just as good. So that brings us to our list here, which is a compilation of 14 of the most underrated sitcoms from the last decade of the century that still feel fresh. Mind you, this list is in no particular order, and we suggest you stay tuned till the very end of our video. But before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin.
We all know who everybody's gonna blame, don't we?
Good morning, everyone.
Spin City, 1996 to 2002. Created by Bill Lawrence and the late Gary David Goldberg, Spin City aired on ABC, spanning 6 seasons and generating a total of 145 episodes. The TV series is set in a fictionalized version of the New York City mayor's office and initially starred activist and retired actor Michael J. Fox in the role of Deputy Mayor of New York. Story-wise, Fox plays the leading role of Mike Flaherty, who, along with his City Hall staff, has to invariably save the dim-witted mayor from constant embarrassment and the media. Actor Charlie Sheen became the new lead as Deputy Mayor Charlie Crawford in the final 2 seasons, replacing Fox after the latter departed the show post his Parkinson's disease getting more severe in the process. A recipient of 2 Primetime Emmys, Spin City is a smart sitcom with a genuinely funny and witty teleplay that takes its viewers behind the scenes of the Deputy Mayor's office. Packed with highly interesting comical and creative characters, every individual on display had a unique personality and came with a distinctive sense of humor, giving depth to the series. Everything was great about the show, from the spectacular production design to the well-designed costumes. Of course, the highlight of the TV series happened to be the incredible Fox. And while Sheen is good, let's be honest here, he isn't as appealing as Fox. So the thing with Fox is that he has this particular charm and simplicity in him that makes him capable of delivering any line with the utmost precision for that matter. No wonder he ended up winning a well-deserving Primetime Emmy for his outstanding performance in the show.
8:59 and counting. Welcome to New York.
NewsRadio, 1995 to 1999. Paul Sims's NewsRadio aired on NBC, having on display 5 seasons and producing 97 hilarious episodes in the process, featuring quite the ensemble cast. This workplace sitcom had its primary focus delving deeper into the dynamics and interpersonal relationships of the co-workers of an AM broadcasting all-news radio station, New York's number 2 radio station to be more precise. Often regarded as one of the best and most unappreciated comedy shows ever made, NewsRadio effortlessly manages to hold up to this day. Guaranteed to leave everyone in splits, this cult classic here, which sadly ended a little too early, is also an awardee of a Primetime Emmy, along with 14 nominations. Each of the characters featured in the series is unique, aiding a bit of their own charm to the show and thereby making a solid cast. From the late Phil Hartman to Stephen Root and Dave Foley and Andy Dick, everyone was well versed in their roles and played them to perfection. Naturally, with Hartman's untimely passing away, there wasn't any plausible replacement, and while there's no denying that John Lovitz did do his best to fit into those shoes of Hartman, he did lack the strong screen presence Hartman had in the first place. If you ask us, NewsRadio continues to remain one of our favorite shows, and if you call yourself a true fan of Phil Hartman, we highly recommend that you give this a shot. Two Guys and a Girl, 1998 to 2001. Did you know Danny Jacobson, Kenny Schwartz, and Rick Weiner's TV series, which is titled Two Guys and a Girl and a Pizza Place for the first 2 seasons, initially aired as a short-run, mid-season replacement on ABC, only to run for 4 seasons and bring about 81 episodes at the end of the day. With Ryan Reynolds, Taylor Howard, and Richard Ruccolo as the title characters, the narrative revolves around the lives of best friends Berg, Sharon, and and Pete, how their lives are wrapped around each other and the bonds they share. By season 3, the pizza place premise was entirely abandoned, and the sitcom's title was changed to Two Guys and a Girl. What you are looking at happened to be an excellent comedy show with significant character development, but provided we choose to take a look at the first 2 seasons. Like it or not, but it was the 3rd season when the show started to lose its charm, leading to a sharp drop in terms of its ratings. So much so, the sitcom was also moved to a Friday night death slot for the 4th season and, in due course, moved back to the midweek. Anyway, with that being said, we know it isn't exactly Seinfeld material, but one cannot really deny the fact that this series was innovatively funny, boasting some of the most hilarious episodes, and add to this A-class writing with top-rated acting by the very talented cast. Of course, it took risks with certain episodes, but then again, they only ended up working in favor of the sitcom. In short, what we are trying to say here is that it is a tad difficult to explain things about this TV series to you, unless you've seen it. So why don't you, if you still haven't, and give us your honest opinion about it in the comments section.
We split in 2.
What if it's a puppy?
Wings, 1990 to 1997. A creation of David Lee, Peter Casey, and the late David Angle. Wings had an 8-season run on NBC and came up with a total of 172 episodes. While the series is set at the fictional 2-airplane airport in Nantucket, the storyline mainly revolves around Hackett brothers Joe and Brian operating their single-plane airline service via Sandpiper Air. Now, the siblings aren't exactly successful corporate moguls, but they attempt to do their very best with the only plane they have. Joining the brothers in their adventures is a horde of interesting characters. First things first, Wings is a comfort show filled to the brim with every 90s cliche that one can only possibly think of. You are looking at a show that has maintained its humor quotient throughout the 8 seasons, and this is conclusively a big thing. This means that not only was the writing top shelf, crisp and witty, but the cast was great as well. Also, when we say cast, we aren't just looking at the main characters. The wonderful supporting cast deserves special mention too, for managing to keep things fresh. It is a shame that this show got lost amidst the other sitcoms of the 90s, and never really got the credit it truly deserved. If you ask us, Wings is a series that is not to be missed by any true fan of comedy.
Why can't Harry do it?
Because you're the woman.
That brings up a very good question.
Third Rock from the Sun, 1996 to 2001. Bonnie and Terry Turner's Third Rock from the Sun stayed on the run for 6 seasons and released 139 episodes of sheer comedy bliss. The sitcom centers around 4 extraterrestrials who are sent to Earth to study human society and comprehend the human condition, while posing as a regular human family. Now Dick, Tommy, Sally, and Harry are all very different from each other, but there is this one thing that ties them all together, and that is their mutual hatred for the humans. Of course, all of this changes eventually as we dive deeper into the series. Believe us when we tell you that Third Rock from the Sun won 8 primetime Emmys, so you do get what we are dealing with here, right? An excellent sitcom right from the very beginning. This series deserves a special mention because of its absolutely perfect cast. It is also fair to say that actors John Lithgow, Kristen Johnson, French Stewart, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Jane Curtin very quickly won over the audience with their outstanding performance. Besides having an incredible teleplay and hilarious characterization, this comic sitcom also gave one the assurance that something mind-bogglingly funny is about to take place in every episode. Third Rock from the Sun is a rare comedy that not only features an intriguing concept, but also a superb execution. It is one of the funniest sitcoms ever to grace the tube, and it is certainly worth seeing if you still have not.
You can only look at them when they're not looking at you.
The Drew Casey Show, 1995 to 2004. Created also by the real Drew Carey, along with TV writer and producer Bruce Helford. This show had a 9-year run, producing a total of 233 episodes. In the series, Carey happens to be a fictionalized version of himself, more like a self-proclaimed everyman who is seen working as an assistant director at the fictional Cleveland department store. Now, while he has been stuck there for years, he is often seen fighting with his co-worker Mimi Bobek in particular. Drew loves beer, and his side hustle happens to be a microbrewery inside his garage. One of the most recognizable elements of the sitcom here, besides Drew, of course, is the character of Bobek that is essayed by Kathy Kinney. In fact, fact. You will not be surprised to learn that Bobek's character was initially not meant to be a regular on the show, but the positive reaction Kinney received had the character written in, thereby making her an integral part of the storyline. The chemistry between the cast is perfect, and it is only fitting to say that Drew and his co-stars together have carried the series forward for 9 long years. What is criminally underrated is this sitcom's brilliance and wit, and there is just no denying that. Also, if we're being honest, we firmly believe there happens to be very few shows that have been able to compete with the genius of this series here. The Drew Carey Show was a truly memorable sitcom that was without a doubt way ahead of its time. Freaks and Geeks, 1999. Paul Feig's period teen comedy drama takes us viewers to the early 1980s and revolves primarily around siblings Lindsay and Sam. With the duo attending the same suburban high school, both become a part of different groups. In simple words, Lindsay joins the underachievers known as the Freaks, while Sam joins a group of freshmen known as the Geeks. Story-wise, it is the siblings taking a rather rocky path to adulthood that forms a central strand of the show. Besides being magnificently cinematic, Freaks and Geeks was one of the most honest depictions of high school life. Not only was it marvelously written, but also exceptionally well acted, thanks to the charming cast, with each member bringing their talent to the show. In fact, every episode on display kept one hooked to the screen, triggering a horde of emotions simultaneously. No wonder there are so many to date who still feel that the sitcom, which eventually achieved its cult classic status, was wrongly cancelled after having a total of just 18 episodes on display. Here we will tell you what we think worked in favor of the series and what probably didn't. The solitary fact that Freaks and Geeks presented things from 2 different perspectives worked wonders. But then again, this short-lived series did have a difficult time finding its base audience, and, add to this, the show was also a little too expensive to produce. With that being said, Freaks and Geeks featured a great soundtrack, and if you ask us, it is a hidden gem that was categorically way ahead of its time. Clarissa Explains It All, 1991 to 1994. What you're looking at happens to be a highly interesting teen sitcom, one that was created by Mitchell Kriegman for the television channel Nickelodeon. We have Melissa Joan Hart playing the titular role of Clarissa, a teenager who is seen talking to the audience directly to elucidate her day-to-day life events. Now this includes several things, starting from dealing with boys and pimples to even wearing her first training bra. So while it is true that this sitcom doesn't exactly have a plot as such, and our main character is seen explaining everything that is basically unfolding around her, there was no stopping Clarissa Explains It All from being one of Nickelodeon's top-rated live-action shows. Of course, the high point of the sitcom was the charming Melissa Joan Hart, and may we add here that she was absolutely fantastic in the role of the smart, humorous, and informative Clarissa Darling. The TV show dealt with real problems and had no hidden agendas, and because of that, the series turned out to be pretty entertaining, funny, and also witty at the same time. The Critic, 1994 to 2001. A creation of writing partners Mike Rice and L. Jean, this primetime adult animated sitcom stayed on the run for 2 seasons and generated 23 episodes. The Critic centers around the life of a cold, mean-spirited, elitist, overweight and snobbish New York film critic named Jay Sherman, who makes a living out of reviewing movies that he does not like via his televised review show, Coming Attractions. What you are looking at happens to be an outrageous entertaining show with a brilliant comedian lead, one that happened to be none other than Jon Lovitz. Also, if we may add here, the character of Sherman was tailor-made for Lovitz, and the Critic seemed more like this perfect union between a voice and a character. Lovitz breathed life into the character of Sherman when he voiced him, and we honestly don't think anybody else would have done justice to the role. Rice and Jean also deserve commendation for coming up with this short-lived masterpiece, one that was unafraid to bash the hell out of crap films. This particular sitcom took Hollywood's dynamics and spoofed them incessantly, while simultaneously making numerous parodic references to huge productions. The solitary reason The Critic manages to hold up to date is chiefly because of the show's satirical humor on display, and there are no second thoughts about it. Get a Life, 1990 to 1992. Created by Adam Resnick and David Merkin and Chris Elliott. Get a Life stars Elliott as Chris Peterson, a 50-year-old carefree childlike bachelor who lives in an apartment above his parents' garage. Peterson worked as a paperboy, a job he has voluntarily held since his youth, and does everything he can to avoid responsibilities. You will be surprised to learn that this fun comedy show, which lasted 2 seasons, was actually based on the 1959 sitcom Dennis the Menace, and that is primarily the reason why Peterson is usually seen donning striped shirts in the series. A strong contender for the most underrated sitcoms of the 90s, Get a Life is not only well written but also incredibly funny. Of course, what makes this TV show hilarious and inventive is its premise. A 50-year-old paperboy still living with his parents and getting into what happens to be the oddest of situations on a regular basis. The characters featured here are the series' high points, with each member bringing something to the table. From sharp dialogues to wacky slapstick, this show has everything to make you have a good time. If you still have not seen it, what exactly are you waiting for?
Love to, Andrea, but I'm late for first period. Gotta go.
There goes our hero.
Parker Lewis Can't Lose, 1990 to 1993. A creation of Clyde Phillips and Lon Diamond, this teen sitcom aired on Fox, spanning across 3 seasons and churning out 73 episodes in the process. Story-wise, Parker Lewis Can't Lose mainly had its focus on the problems of a titular character, a high school student at Santo Domingo who believes nothing is impossible. Parker Lewis Can't Lose to this very day holds up for being a high-quality, innovative show of uncommon intelligence and fresh humor. Right from the inventive, snappy storylines, the pitch-perfect casting, and the well-designed costume designs, to the creative camera work and the spectacular production design, the sitcom was a massive hit during its heyday and proved quite early that it was way ahead of its time. The titular character literally made one crave to hang out with him and his gang. Such was the aura of actor Corin Nemec. Of course, the high point of the whole series is Lewis's famous catchphrase, "Not a problem," and those who have seen the series will surely agree with us on this. This is definitely worth a look, and we highly recommend that you do so at your earliest.
It ended here too, on Valentine's Day at 7:07 a.m. in a massive showdown.
The Adventures of Pete and Pete, 1992 to 1996. Created by William McRobb and Chris Biscardi for Nickelodeon, the show's riveting plotline concerns 2 brothers, both with the same name, and focuses on the duo's surreal adventures in suburbia alongside their friends and neighbors. Often addressed as the greatest and most well-written children's show ever, The Adventures of Pete and Pete initially began as a series of 1-minute shorts, only to end up having a 3-season run and generating 32 enthralling episodes in the process. There are several things about this coming-of-age sitcom that kept the viewers glued to their screens. Well, for starters, the characters featured were highly likable, and the cast's performance was top grade. Next, we have the element of humor, which really worked well for the series. This was followed by extremely well-written, entertaining stories that were depicted. At last, but not least, one cannot disregard the opening credits with a theme song featured here. In addition to the things we have mentioned, the fact that the writers effortlessly managed to create a convincing alternate universe without resorting to any special effects is highly praiseworthy and notable enough that it cannot be treated lightly in any manner. Fans of the show have always addressed the series as indescribable because everything about it is just so great. If you have seen the sitcom and believe in the same thing, hit us in the comment section right away.
No, this stupid commercial for loose-fitting jeans.
The George Carlin Show, 1994 to 1995. Created by the late George Carlin and Sam Simon, this sitcom featured Carlin as a New York taxicab driver named George O'Grady. When O'Grady isn't talking about his speculations on government schemes and extraterrestrial visitations on his trips, he's usually seen hanging out at the local tavern with his circle of wacky friends. One of the major reasons why the George Carlin Show never really got the praise it rightfully deserved, despite the show showcasing Carlin's terrific comedy styles, boils down to the humor is subjective factor. Honestly, this particular TV series was single-handedly a lot better than most of the sitcoms that were aired on television around this time. Mind you, the comedy featured is pretty raw and not meant for everyone, so finding the base audience for the George Carlin Show was a bit tough. It is pretty unfortunate that Fox ended up cancelling the show and never really gave it a chance.
To this conclusion, love and marriage.
Married with Children, 1987 to 1997. Created by Michael George Moy and Ronald Levitt. This television situation comedy happens to be the longest-running live-action sitcom to have ever been aired on Fox. We are literally talking about 11 seasons and a total of 259 episodes, just to be clear. This sitcom is set in Chicago, and the narrative revolves around the life of unsuccessful middle-aged shoe salesman Al Bundy and his dysfunctional family. Bundy's family consists of his highly attractive but lazy wife, Peggy, his exceedingly promiscuous teenage daughter, Kelly, and his know-it-all son, Bud. There's no denying that Married with Children is a classic, and it is hard to not fall in love with this show. To those of you thinking, how many jokes can one actually squeeze out of the shoes, given that that is the major subplot here? Believe us when we tell you that there are quite a few. Of course, the high points of the series happen to be the very character of Al Bundy, Peggy, Kelly, and Bud. And it is the interaction between these characters and the situations that they always manage to throw themselves in that gives one all the reason to get hooked onto the show. Married with Children is a testament to the central formula of the show that has lasted long enough and was pretty funny till the very last episode of the season. Marvelous verdict. Well, that is all for today, and with this, we finally come to the end of our video here. So which of these underrated sitcoms from the 90s did you fancy the most? Did your favorite sitcom make it to our list? We would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and we sincerely hope that you have got your fill of nostalgic sitcoms for today. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Please do leave a thumbs up and stay tuned with us as we promise to come back with more exciting content. Till then, goodbye and thanks everyone for watching. Have a nice one.